Check out the Luke Wilson TV store on spring.com. The other day I saw this meme pointing out how every couple years the movie Idiocracy is getting more accurate in its predictions about society and the future of the United States. And I have to agree, since 2006 we've seen a lot of this movie fulfilled like some twisted prophecy from the book of combination Pizza Hut and Taco Bell. But at the end of the day, it's just a movie. While it may have predicted multi-screen content binging, incel culture, and the intersection of pro wrestling and mainstream politics, it got just as many things completely wrong. And this is something screenwriter and director Mike Judge constantly beats himself up over. With the bulk of production done in the early 2000s, it completely missed social media and smartphones. But that's only a sliver of what we'll be discussing today. To see the reality behind the systemic dumbing down of our society, we're better off looking at Office Space, another social satire that Mike Judge created just a few years prior. Instead of an apocalyptic future where intelligent people have become extinct, Office Space tackles the stupidity behind traditional office spaces of the present, what is known today as the Y2K era. But both movies deal with the absolute ridiculousness of humanity in a world clouded by material gain, lust, and sedation, and just how far it departs from what we truly need to be happy and successful. So today we're answering the question of which movie does it better. If you're new to the channel, my name is Luke Wilson, and I believe in the power of YouTube content. I think one of the greatest things we can do, which actually ties into today's video, is use our superior human brains to learn everything we can about the world we live in. I'm not going to say my content is the most educational out there, but I've made it my mission to create videos that are not only entertaining, but actually give you something educational to walk away with. If that sounds interesting, then check out my other content, consider subscribing, and leave any comments on how I can improve. With all that out of the way, let's get into it. Idiocracy and Office Space have been on my list of video topics for a while now, and I'm honestly kind of glad I waited until now to talk about them. With the current trajectory of the political system, artificial intelligence, and public education, no one is really sure what's going to happen in the next 10 or even 5 years. And although I've seen Office Space a dozen times, it wasn't until this summer that I actually got to work a 9 to 5 and see how the sausage is made. Let's quickly compare the main story beats and themes of each film in case you guys haven't seen them. I'll try to avoid major spoilers, but these movies are more about the jokes and satire anyway, so you can be the judge. The Mike Judge. Office Space follows Peter Gibbons and his friends Samir and Michael as they attempt to escape the vampiric grasp of corporate America. The company they work for is called Initech, and if you think that's a generic sounding name, go look at the dozens, if not hundreds of real-world companies with the exact same name. You have infinite possible names for your boring-ass company, and you choose Initech. Let me come up with 5 better ones right now, on the spot. Superputer, Cobalt Technical, Green Eggs and Ram, no, Nojewel and Nojewel, and Sons. Lion, but the Li is lithium. What makes this even worse is the profound cultural impact this movie had. It wasn't a blockbuster by any means. In fact, it didn't even make half of its budget on opening weekend, but in the following years, it would dip in and out of the top 20 blockbuster home videos as the public grew to appreciate it. Not only did Swingline start mass-producing red staplers after the movie grew in popularity, but TGI Fridays actually overhauled their uniform requirements after Jennifer Aniston basically said "F you" to the whole Flair thing. Nice. But I guess the tech companies didn't take any notes because we still have shit like Alpha Nova, Launch Leap, and Super Beta Prostate. Wait, that last one is real. Peter, played by Ron Livingston, is depressed, finding little to no meaning in his job and his current relationship. I mean, he openly admits that every day is the worst day of his life. This all changes when he sees a hypnotherapist who accidentally dies mid-session, turning Peter into an extreme nonconformist who quite literally doesn't care about anything anymore. He starts skipping work, he asks out a cute waitress named Joanna, he guts a fish on his desk and starts playing Tetris and eating Cheetos instead of being productive. Well, he pretty much did that before, but now he has no shame. The entire thing is a lesson in perspective and confidence. If you wish you were out fishing all day, then go fishing all day. If you hate being pushed around, stand up for yourself. If you know you'd be happier doing something or someone else, then give it a try. And if you think Initech is an evil corporation, then it's totally justifiable to steal $300,000 from them. Wait, what? Yeah, this movie actually has an entire second half, and both halves combine to create a surprisingly deep and cohesive message. Peter's newfound confidence actually brings him a promotion at work, but it also gives him a sense of arrogance that begins taking over his morals. While the first half of the movie is a warning against how society can cripple the free spirit of mankind, the second half is a warning against the exact opposite. We don't want to crush anyone's humanity, but oftentimes it can be the very thing preventing us from living a successful life. Let me explain. Bill Lumbergh and Initech are made out to be the villains of the first half, but some people need or even prefer this kind of structure in their life. They don't want to have to make the decisions, which is totally fine, but if you want to be in complete control like Peter, you have to be prepared to steer the ship. A lot happens to him in the beginning of this movie, so it's hard to say whether it was Initech, his ex-girlfriend, his pessimism, or his lack of confidence that was holding him back. Personally, I think it was a combination of them all, and the hypnotherapy was just a way to get him out of his dull routine. He actually asks if Dr. Swanson can just zonk him out all day so he doesn't realize he's at work. Well, if you've seen the Amazon warehouses, you'll recognize this as the beginning signs of coping. Substance abuse, keeping the workplace running since literally the beginning of time. While both Idiocracy and Office Space dive into some pretty mature subject matter, drugs and alcohol aren't really explored in a meaningful way, which I have to say is a good thing. Not only would it have made both movies a little more serious in tone, but it would have changed the way we relate to these characters, especially as Peter becomes more arrogant and self-righteous. Peter, who has become extremely bitter towards Initech, realizes that he can scrape and compile the fractions of cents that Initech would otherwise round up or down when calculating how much money is being held or transferred at any given time. If all goes well, then no one should notice, and those fractions would slowly accumulate into a large sum of money that Peter, Michael, and Samir could split evenly. Well, unfortunately, we never get to see it play out, as the entire plan goes to shit, and the boys end up with $250,000 on their very, very dirty hands.
Oh, shit.
I'm not going to spoil the ending, but I'll just say that they only get away with it because of how poorly the company has been managed, and Peter ends up finding a job in construction with his neighbor Lawrence, finally satisfied with his life. Why? Well, Peter says it's because he gets to be out in the sun all day and work with his hands, but we'll come back to that later. Office Space was a movie born out of the faults and failures of the workplace, but Idiocracy applies this perspective to society as a whole, and gives us a glimpse of what the future could become if we don't take the necessary steps to fix it. By the year 2505, the average IQ is somewhere around 12, most buildings are in disrepair, the digital clock tower hasn't been set in God knows how long, Saint God, and humanity is overrun with degeneracy, with the entire population too sedated to even recognize this as a problem. I'm jumping the gun here, but because Idiocracy takes place shortly before the total extinction of humanity, there are a lot of parallels between what we see in the first 15 minutes and what we've seen from the fall of the Earth's largest empires. The movie follows Joe Bowers, played by Luke Wilson? Oh, no! My table. This isn't good. No, it broke. Oh my god, that sucks, dude. What the hell am I supposed to do now? The movie follows Joe Bowers, played by Luke Wilson, and Rita, played by Maya Rudolph, as they are accidentally frozen for 500 years in a military experiment gone wrong.
Wow.
The two eventually reach each other in the future and attempt to find a way back home. Typically, nature rewards the strongest organisms, but in this case, the exact opposite happened. Those with the best adaptations, the sharpest wit, and the biggest muscles tend to outclass the rest, moving the wider species towards its optimal form. But human intelligence throws a wrench in this entire thing, however, as we can adapt to any environment we choose and create tools to destroy anything we deem a threat. And while we have the ability to supersede our animal instincts like fear, ignorance, and temptation, we often find ourselves falling victim to easy solutions and hedonistic pleasures. This is one of the core issues in Idiocracy. Everything has been made into an adult attraction, and both food and entertainment have been distilled into pure dopamine that no one can seem to get off of. Joe eventually makes it to a hospital where he realizes he needs a wrist tattoo before he can really do anything. I always crack up at this entire sequence. The secretary is literally just there to press a button with a picture on it, and Dr. Lexus, who is supposed to be a doctor...
What I do is just say, you know what I mean? Like,
just starts screaming and panicking at the slightest inconvenience. Maybe it's because of how real it feels. I don't remember where I was, maybe a KFC or Dairy Queen or something, but I swear, they weren't even operating the register or the kitchen. They were just entering some button combination like it's an old Atari game. Seriously, today we have fast food employees doing QuickTime events just to give you some TVP soy burger, chemical water, and a side of microplastics. Tomorrow it'll be the machines doing this shit. And the lack of problem-solving skills is right on. After working a bunch of different jobs, I can tell you that many times when something isn't working, it takes about 2 brain cells and a molecule of elbow grease to fix the problem, as opposed to days, weeks, or even months of wasted time and money. Joe continues to struggle as he discovers everything from the grocery stores and fast food chains to the courtrooms and prisons are a husk of their former selves, barely kept alive by a species of zombies who have no idea how they even got there. This is actually a good time to bring up one of the most hilariously accurate predictions Idiocracy made about the future: the rise of Costco wholesale.
Welcome to Costco. I love you.
In recent years, Costco has expanded significantly with a 25% increase in revenue between 2021 and 2023, and selling things like Pokemon cards and Squishmallows have further tied them in with popular culture. Not to mention my homies AJ and Big Justice.
You know we live for the discount, son.
Costco was actually the original idea for this video. A few months ago, I walked in with my mom, and in the very front of the store were these stuffed animals that were holding stuffed versions of popular brand-named food items. I was immediately like, oop, another day, another prophecy fulfilled. But when I saw how many people were glazing Idiocracy online, I wanted to take a deeper look, especially since it was and still is one of my favorite films. The largest criticism towards Idiocracy, apart from how offensive it can be at times, is that it's nothing more than a whiny, surface-level commentary on lazy people under late-stage capitalism. And yeah, I can see where you're coming from, but the fact that so many of these ridiculous hyperboles are unfolding before our very eyes, I can't help but admire how well this movie understands basic human behavior. People love to wear and endorse brands, and it seems like every week we get a new collab, and it's slowly becoming less special and more of a cheap way to innovate. They even got Crocs right. You might already know this, but costume designer Deborah McGuire was on a limited budget and just so happened to find a startup for a stupid yet futuristic looking pair of shoes. So to cut costs, she purchased a whole bunch for the citizens of future America. Whether it was a boost in revenue from the movie or just a stroke of luck and some genius marketing, Crocs exploded in the 2000s and recently exploded again as people have sought more casual and comfortable footwear. They pull in billions of dollars a year in revenue, and I guarantee you've seen everyone from your doctor to your anime-obsessed teenage brother wearing them. Eventually, President Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Camacho finds Joe, and recognizing his superior intellect, gives him the responsibility of fixing every single humanitarian issue in 1 week. Yeah, unsurprisingly, despite turning the water supply back into water instead of Brondo, the thirst mutilator, he's barely able to get a single plant growing amidst a drought of apocalyptic proportions. Joe eventually fixes the issue and avoids being killed in a public execution x Monster Jam arena fight, and the movie, just like Office Space, ends in an unexpected way that I'm not going to spoil. But I have to include 2 of the most important quotes here because it segues perfectly into why both of these movies deal with the same fundamental issue, and it's not just some cliche mankind is its own worst enemy type thing. One of the final lines in Idiocracy is spoken by Frito, a supporting character who's... his name's Frito. He's made out to be a complete gooner, but towards the end of the movie, he actually becomes a little more nuanced. In fact, a lot of the characters and plot points become more nuanced as the true message behind the movie is revealed. He says, "For the smartest guy in the world, you're pretty dumb sometimes," which is ironic, but it makes you wonder what Frito actually means. What do the humans of future America with an IQ anywhere between 0 and 30 actually think a stupid person looks like? Well, this is where it all starts to crash down, and we're bringing in Office Space because the main focus of both movies isn't your IQ, it's your EQ, your emotional intelligence, also known as your maturity. And to push it even further, it's about how those with a low EQ are actually the ones negatively impacting society. The main conflict of Office Space is that Peter is unhappy. Dr. Swanson gives him a complete emotional reset, but that only solves part of the issue. Peter puts it best when he says, "It's not that I'm lazy, it's just that I don't care. It's a problem of motivation, alright? Now if I work my ass off and Initech ships a few extra units, I don't see another dime. So where's the motivation?" The Bobs, who Peter is talking to, and Peter both settle on Lumberg as the source of all evil, but after a promotion, a raise, and a stock exchange program, Peter still isn't satisfied. The only thing that really motivates him is the idea of ripping off Initech, which is one of the first things Peter does that actually feels meaningful. It's only supposed to be a few cents, but when it's a direct result of your hard work, it feels a whole lot better. This is even backed up by the former employee from Innitrode, a neighboring tech company, who is making substantially more money selling magazine subscriptions than he was at his previous position. And this is precisely why, at the end of the movie, Peter finds construction far more fulfilling than working at a desk. Michael and Samir stay because they don't really mind, but Peter is just a different kind of person with different needs, and exchanging some of your salary for a happier life doesn't always have to mean drowning yourself in drugs and alcohol just to make it through another day. Someone else I want to highlight is Tom, who is desperately trying to convince himself that his job actually matters, instead of facing the reality that it doesn't. He ties his entire persona to this job, and actually attempts suicide before realizing that his wife and his personal ambitions are just as, if not more, important than a middle management position at a boring-ass company. Oh, and then he gets hit by a drunk driver, womp womp. It's all a good lesson in how to be happy and find meaning in your life, but apart from how a low EQ can hurt oneself, Bill Lumbergh is an example of how it can harm others. Peter jokes about shooting up the office on multiple occasions, but it's actually Milton who breaks down as a direct result of how he's mismanaged. Lumbergh sadistically bullies him throughout the film, believing there will be no consequences, but ends up pushing him to the breaking point, causing millions of dollars in completely avoidable damage. Lumbergh is without a doubt the villain of this film, and he's the only character that doesn't go through a substantial arc. He starts out pretty boring, but turns out to be a real dick who doesn't treat his employees with any respect, doesn't try to motivate them, and doesn't even come to Tom's picnic after he's released from the hospital. We go into these movies with the idea that lazy people are too distracted by worldly pleasures to focus on creating or accomplishing anything worthwhile, but true laziness is a lack of effort when you know damn well you should be using your authority, your money, and your brain for something better. This is the same issue that caused America to slowly decline in Idiocracy. A lot of people laugh at the beginning of this movie because it's just a bunch of hillbillies having sex while the intelligent people are too anxious and frustrated to even try, but they often overlook the part explaining that scientists were too busy working on medicine to reduce hair loss and prolong erections. The second quote I alluded to earlier is, "I think the world got like this because people like me never did anything. At least you were an artist." And he's exactly right. The world's smartest people were too busy working on vanity projects instead of raising a family. And I guess all of the artists and rebels in the world got hooked on cheese tubes or something, I don't know. Maybe the Cart Knight exists in this world and it fried all the skaters' brains. The world can only go back to normal when Joe, the only smart man alive, realizes that he can't run away from responsibility. The same way that Peter has to do the right thing and take the fall for all the money that he stole. On the last episode of the podcast, the telecast, which you should definitely go check out, I brought up an idea that's been floating around lately, that strong people don't really have a choice when it comes to protecting others. It's an obligation, and you have to lead and serve others with what you've been given. And I think it's what makes both of these movies so damn relatable. The people who run our businesses, our governments, our research, they need to be intelligent, yes, but they need to be empathetic, and most importantly, they need to be aware of what it means to be a leader. And that's why I, Luke Wilson, am officially announcing my run for the 2024 presidential election. No, but seriously, it's much easier to prescribe someone medication instead of figuring out what's actually wrong. It's so much easier to throw someone in jail instead of rehabilitating them. And it's so much easier to plug your ears than it is to listen. And when you create a public that's misinformed on basically everything, it's way easier to sell them on a lie than it is the truth. And Mark Twain wrote that over 100 years ago. Oh, and I guess you want to know which movie I like more. Well, I have to go with Office Space, but by a pretty slim margin. It's a little tighter and a lot more grounded than Idiocracy, and despite both movies having an abnormal story structure, I think Office Space just keeps a better pace. And while new Idiocracy predictions come true every month, I think Office Space just does a better job at preaching its message. Both are extremely quotable, and I'm extremely excited to watch more of Mike Judge's stuff. I think he's a genius, so let me know if you'd like to see a King of the Hill versus Beavis and Butthead video or something down the line. The only thing I had left to cover was that Tom Kenny did most of the machine voices for this movie, so that's cool.
You are an unfit mother. Your children will be placed in the custody of Carl's Jr. Carl's Jr. Fuck you. I'm eating.
If you like this video, check out my TV and movies playlist. It's a collection of every review/analysis of a movie or show that I've ever done. And as I mentioned before, go check out the podcast. I'm really investing a ton of time and energy into it, and there's a new episode coming out shortly after this video drops. You're not going to want to miss it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace and love. Bye-bye. Next time on Luke Wilson TV. Yeah, like I just said, we got a brand new podcast episode coming out. Also, I think I'm going to kind of treat this as like the after show, so I'm going to like talk a little bit more, ramble a little bit more. Let me know if you like these movie reviews or these movie analysis videos. The next JoJo Iceberg part is in the works, and that could possibly be next. Who knows? I'm going on vacation, so I'll have a lot of time to write stuff. And yeah, let me know what you guys actually want to see, and let me know what you think other people actually want to see. That's like, you know, it's a really useful tool for me because I know like how to stay relevant. All right, that's all I got for you guys. See you in the next video. Peace, peace, peace.